feel like that's here we are recording. Hello. Thank you for joining me. I'm going to share my screen and we'll get started. So this is a relatively new workshop, meaning if you did my program 2 months ago, this was not a presentation. This was not included. But I thought it was important. It was a book that I was reading like while I was developing the program. And at the end, I was like, I can't leave this out. It's really important. It kind of ties everything up in a neat little bow because it's additive to all the stuff that we're learning already. And it will kind of kick everything up a notch. So what I mean by that is today we are going to talk about how you can maximize your longevity, not by losing fat, but by building lean muscle to support your body as you age. So paradigm shift, we're going to talk about that. So I found Dr. Gabrielle Lyon listening to the Mel Robbins podcast. Jen, I know you're a big fan. And immediately I, downloaded her book and started listening to it. Like I listened to the podcast and then I downloaded the audiobook and started listening to it that same day because that's what I do. Like I get crazy. Dr. Lyon is a board certified in family medicine. She completed a combined research and clinical fellowship in geriatrics and nutritional science. So think about that. She's learning all about old people as aging and nutrition and how those two intersect. So I really respect the work that she's doing. So she is a functional medicine practitioner, and she's the founder of the Institute for Muscle-Centric Medicine. She is a nationally recognized speaker and media contributor specializing in brain and thyroid health, lean body mass support, and longevity. So all the things that we are kind of interested in here as we age. She has a lot of credentials. She does a lot of speaking engagements. She's on a lot of podcasts. You'll start seeing her now because your phone is listening to this too, as you know. So what she talks about is a huge paradigm shift. And while she was so compelling on the podcast, when I got to her book, I was a little overwhelmed, as I often am. This happens a lot. I listen to somebody speak and then I go and read their book and it's like, oh my God, this is like so dense with facts and math, and like nobody's going to actually do this. If they just picked up the book and they hadn't listened to you talk about it, it might be a no-go. So it was packed with details about the science behind building muscles and your metabolism. And I think this muscle-centric lifestyle is going to benefit just about anyone, but I just didn't feel like many people were going to take the time to follow it unless you're like a bodybuilder, because people don't want to track nutrition. They don't want to have to track and do math to be healthy. So what I'm doing here is really breaking down this book, kind of like I did in Why Am I So Effing Tired and Why Am I So Effing Hungry by Dr. Amy Shah. I'm going to break it all down for you in terms of what the key takeaways are. So, and how you can leverage protein and muscle to help you feel your best as you age, and incorporating it into our foundational habits for longevity and wellness. So it ties in again with all the things that we've been doing up till this point. First, I want to take a little bit of time to set the stage. So most people think of getting healthy and starting an exercise regimen. When they think of that, they think of weight loss, right? Like you think of getting healthy, automatically your mind goes to, I need to lose weight. And that's just kind of like the culture that we've been brought up in. It's so focused on weight loss or fat loss. And the diet culture messaging has us believing that we need to cut fat or carbs or some entire food group, right? You've all heard of the calories in, calories out. And while on the surface that is true, metabolism is an incredibly complex process that's wildly misunderstood, or it's oversimplified in the diet and fitness industry. People throw that word around a lot. You hear it a lot. You also hear things like not all calories are created equal. And I want to just kind of double down on what that means. If you think about the whole is greater than the sum of its parts, it means that so many things come into play when we're talking about calories and metabolism. So for example, if you're taking a supplement that's devoid of all the other things that are in that whole food, right? Let's just take vitamin C. You just take a vitamin C supplement without the orange as a really, really basic example. You're not getting the benefits of the calories of the orange, energy, the fiber of the orange, right? We know how important fiber is. The taste of the orange, the fullness of the orange, right? You're taking one thing out. So when you take a bunch of supplements, that is taking away the way nature intended you to receive that nutrient. So I'm just going to, this is all setting the stage. I just want you to think about how that works. This is why I don't recommend a ton of supplements. I recommend some key supplements that are really hard to get in your diet for all sorts of different reasons. But you can't just take a pill. You can't just, this is why Ozempic, I feel like I talk about Ozempic on every single one of these because it's so hot right now, but Ozempic doesn't really work for a long-term solution unless you want to take a pill every single day for the rest of your life. It doesn't teach you good eating habits. It doesn't teach you satiety. It doesn't teach your brain how to feel full when you eat the right foods, right? You can unlearn, and people with eating disorders often have this happen. I had this happen. I didn't know, my brain did not know when I was full until I was full to the point of being ill. And it didn't know when I was actually hungry. It was a signaling problem, not a food problem, really. So anyway, all of this to say, we're going to talk later about the macronutrients that are coming into play, protein, carbohydrates, and fat, and how you can leverage these to achieve optimal health. But first, I want to talk a little bit about metabolism, all the misinformation that's out there, or the lack of understanding that I see. And there's kind of 5 common myths. So now myth number 1, it's on the screen here. The fewer calories I eat, the more weight I'll lose. Yes, it's true. Weight loss is partly calories in versus calorie out. But if you eat less than your body expends during activity, you will lose weight to a point. Your body needs calories at rest. When you're sleeping, even when you're sitting there reading this article, reading this, listening to me, whatever, if you eat too little or exercise too much, your body isn't getting the energy it needs, and your metabolism will then slow, right? So if you think of the scenario of a caveman, right? When they're in their cave, like resting from a hunt, right? They don't need as many calories. And then they go out and they're running, and their body is going to store up the energy so that they can then go out and hunt. So this is a very oversimplified explanation, but your body is so friggin' efficient. It's so smart. It's going to know. Here's another different example. I had a friend who was an ultra marathon runner. So she's running like 50 miles. And I said, hey, isn't it awesome? You can probably eat like whatever you want all the time. And she's like, yeah, I could at first, but then my body became really efficient. And now I eat the same as a normal person. And that's how I can't eat more than, 12 to 15 or 2000 calories a day, whatever it was. So your body becomes efficient. Your metabolism will increase or decrease based on what you're doing. So you can't really outsmart your metabolism, but what you can do is some of the things we're going to be talking about here. So in other words, you're not going to be burning off calories as effectively, and you're more likely to hold them, bringing your weight loss to a slowdown. To find out how many calories your body needs for healthy weight loss, weight gain, or maintenance, you can use a calorie calculator. So as a general rule, women should not dip below 1200 calories and men below 15 to 18. And that's even higher if you're active. So all these crazy diets that are telling you to, like, eat 500 calories a day, in the beginning, you are going to lose some weight, right? You're going to probably lose 5 pounds in a couple of days because you're not eating, you're not bringing in any calories, but your body's going to catch up and figure that out. So that's a bad idea for weight loss. Myth number 2, breakfast is going to jumpstart your metabolism. So the thought is that people who eat breakfast will eat less throughout the rest of their day. So what you eat matters, and it conflicts with intermittent fasting, etc. So in this randomized controlled study, they found that individuals eating or not eating breakfast had 0 effect on weight loss in those who were trying to lose weight. So people were trying to lose weight. Some ate breakfast, some didn't really matter, right? So that is not a jump start to your metabolism. That's not going to make a difference. Myth number 3, eating smaller, more frequent meals throughout the day. This is a big one. People are kind of in 2 camps. They either intermittent fast, right? And they spend a lot of time not eating, and then they eat a bunch during a certain window, fine. And then there's the other camp where people are like, I need to stoke my fire. My metabolism like needs calories all the time. So the idea about that is simple. Whenever we eat food, our body has to burn calories to break down the food and absorb the nutrients. So if we're constantly eating, then couldn't our bodies be constantly burning calories? Not quite the truth. So there's something called the thermic effect of food, TEF, and it's the energy that we expend to process, use, and store the nutrients in our meals. So there is a temporary boost in our metabolic rates. It's directly proportionate to how much and what types of food we eat. So if we eat 6 small meals over the course of the day, it's going to slightly increase your metabolism 6 times. Eating 3 larger meals can result in a similar overall effect through proportionately larger boosts. So it's the same thing. It's just how much are you eating, right? So that doesn't really hold true. However you want to eat is fine. I do recommend doing some sort of fasting, the overnight fast, just like a 12-hour fast. So you stop eating at 7, have your breakfast at 7. That is a normal eating schedule. If you can do that, you're doing great. And the reason for the fasting isn't to increase your metabolism or reduce your calories. The reason for the fasting is to give your digestive system a break, because when you're not digesting food, your body can focus on other repairing types of activities, right? That's when cell repair happens. So that's the reason you want to fast, not for any other reason. You know, some people claim that just the psychological effect, and this might be true. If I can wait as long as possible before eating, I might eat less during the day. Maybe. I think over time, your body will get somehow, some way, shape, or form, your body's going to get the calories it needs to run as efficiently as possible. So you're going to have either, I mean, for me, if I tried to restrict food for a long periods of time, I would just wind up making up for it later, right? I would be uncontrollably hungry and like a wild animal eating food later. So everybody's different with that. I don't want to put like my problems on you, but I think this is probably common. I think a lot of the hype about intermittent fasting could backfire on a lot of people over time. So anyway, any questions so far? Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
But it's kind of tied into this myth number 4. So if we just talked about, you said there's 2 schools of camp, and I've done both. I've done the eat small throughout the day because 1, it stops me from gorging because I don't get starving and then overeat. And 2, I always bought into the idea that I need to keep my energy, my body burning the energy that would help. And then you said that's one school of thought, or there's the intermittent fasting, which I believe in. I can't do the 18-hour fast, but like the 12 hours, stop eating at a certain time of night. But then we have here myth number 4, eating late at night slows your metabolism as a myth. But if you're buying into the intermittent fasting idea that maybe it's metabolism is the key. Like if you're buying into the intermittent fasting idea that you want to stop eating at 7 o'clock at night, wouldn't it be that if I ate at 10 o'clock at night, late at night, I am offsetting the goodness of allowing my body to have 12 hours to digest and repair and do all the other things? Like, isn't myth number 4 kind of true? You shouldn't eat late at night.
It's true to the point of intermittent fat. You won't get the benefits of having 12 full hours of your body not digesting food, but it doesn't
But
slow
it's not related to metabolism.
It's not related to metabolism at all.
Okay, so that's the key. It still might be a good thing to not eat late at night, but it doesn't mean that
For a
it's
different reason.
affecting your metabolism. Okay.
You got it.
Okay.
So the 2020.
So,
go ahead.
well,
Yes.
real quick question. So if you do eat late at night, so let's say you're pretty regimented, you cut off at 7 o'clock, but one night you happen to eat at 9 o'clock. So would you not eat until 9 a.m. the next day, or would you continue with the 7 a.m.?
I don't have anything scientifically to back that up, but what I would say is that is going to happen to all of us, right? Life is funny that way. And most people don't stop eating at 7 o'clock. A lot of cultures eat dinner at 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
We went to Italy and our friends wanted to meet us like for dinner at 9 o'clock. And that was early for them. And they were working people. This is Gary's cousin. I said, like, so when do you guys eat your meals? Like, do we have to eat a snack in the afternoon? And she said, well, sometimes we do. We'll have something, but like, not really. They just go until 9 and then they have their dinner. So you know, they're not really, maybe they're giving their bodies rest at other times, but optimally your body wants to have the cell repair happening without being in digestive mode while you're also resting. So if you're doing your long stretch of fasting in between lunch and dinner, there's something that's going to be beneficial there, but it's not as beneficial as doing it while you're also sleeping, because that's full rest, full repair. Your body, there's a whole, I mean, we had a whole discussion about what happens when you sleep, right? So I might have another workshop that I got to do on sleep, because there's a lot of shit that happens when you're sleeping, like really, really good essential stuff. And people like me who don't get enough hours of sleep are depriving our bodies of that, and it'll lead to health issues later. So I'd say, you know, if you're good with stopping your eating and being on that schedule 5 out of 7 days a week, because let's just say the weekends kind of go to shit, because they do. I think that is not going to have a huge impact. I think it's more important that you then get back on your schedule. So if you stop eating at 9 o'clock at night, you should try and wake up and eat breakfast at relatively the same time. Now, when you're early birds, like we all are, getting up at 4 to do a workout at 5, you know, nobody wants to get up at 4 on a weekend. And I don't get up at 4 on a weekend. I get up at 6 on the weekend, right? It's relatively in the same ballpark. But if I was like sleeping until noon and totally ruining my whole circadian rhythm on the weekends, that's going to impact me, because I'm not going to feel good during the week. Every week I'm like restarting, like building a habit. So within an hour, I'd say an hour is probably better. I should probably get up at 5, but I don't want to get up at 5. I got up at 5:30 today because I was just up. But you know what I mean? Like, try to stay on schedule. It's not perfection is not what we're going for here. But knowing that that's what's best for you and trying to achieve that most days, I think that's the key. We want to just know that that's what we should be striving for. If you can't get there, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Don't say, well, it's all screwed up, I don't want to do this, it's too hard. Just say, tomorrow I'm going to try and be on schedule. Your body likes a schedule. It likes to know when it's getting food. It likes to know when it's getting sleep. Because then it can automate some of the processes and get them going faster. That's backed by science. I don't have the research up right now, but there are scientific studies that show that is true.
Yeah, I read something recently that says it's really important. And to your point, if a day or two you mess up, 5 out of 7 days you're on a schedule, but your body really benefits from the schedule. Like it wants to know what it's getting, when it's sleeping, because it does start to automate and get much more efficient.
Like babies.
Yeah.
Babies want to know. Your body wants to know. It's still in baby mode. Think about it that way. You wouldn't make your baby stay up and not feed it, or feed it too much. You would put it on a schedule, wouldn't you? That's right. All right. So 2020 Dietary Guidelines Advisory Committee says that there isn't enough evidence to determine the relationship between the frequency of eating and growth, size, body composition, and risk of overweight or obesity. So inconclusive on the smaller meals more frequently. Like, do whatever works for you. Jen, if you want to eat a little bit because you think that helps you from overeating. When I eat too many snacks, I overeat on the snacks, and then I'm just overeating 6 times a day. I mean, I don't do that anymore, but that was my problem. I was like, okay, if I don't know how much a little snack is, because my body doesn't know when I'm full. And so how much is too much? So that was my struggle. So for me,
I think to your point, you have to find your rhythm. I believe in the 12-hour fast. For me, I'm super hungry from morning until about 2, like ravenous. Like I have to eat a lot, and then I'm not so hungry. So it's like I just know that I have to eat a lot at a certain period of time, otherwise I get really hangry. But then I'm not. But I think my body's just gotten into that. So I do a lot of smaller, frequent meals until about 2 or 3 in the afternoon, and then I kind of cut it off.
And that has always been the case as long as I've known you. I see you when we go out to dinner. She'd rather order an appetizer than a full meal.
Yeah, because I've eaten 10,000 things earlier today.
All right, myth number 4: eating late at night. We already talked about this a little bit, but we lie in bed while we sleep. So it stands to reason that we don't burn many calories during that time. So if we eat right, this is the theory around the myth. So if we eat right before sleeping, wouldn't that lead to storing that food as fat because it's not being used to power our daily activities? Okay, there's two issues with this premise. The first one is our metabolisms don't slow down to a crawl. Even when we're sleeping, our bodies are still active at night, keeping us functional and healthy through processes like breathing, maintaining your heartbeat. And this study shows that metabolism actually increases during our sleep in leaner individuals. Think about that. If you're leaner, your metabolism is going to increase once you slow down. And it slows down in people with obesity. So it's like the thin keep getting thinner and the fat keep getting fatter. Really oversimplified, but right, your metabolism speeds up. So secondly, our bodies are at a constant state of flux when it comes to using or storing our energy. So our bodies are constantly switching between anabolism and catabolism, which anabolism is building and catabolism is breaking down. So they're pulling energy stores when needed and refilling the stores constantly. So there's huge exchange going on at all times. So having a late dinner or snack at night isn't automatically going to lead to a slow metabolism and weight gain. Now, if you eat just a lot of food all day and all night and you're eating more calories, then yeah, you're going to gain weight, right? And also you won't feel good eating late at night because once you lay down with a full stomach, like that feels super uncomfortable. The other like reason that you might not want to do that is it's going to slow down your window because your body takes about 3 hours to fully digest your meal. So if you stop eating at 7, go to bed at 10, your body's not going to be in digestion mode. But if you stop eating at 9 and you go to bed at 10, you're still digesting for a couple of those hours of sleep. So you're not getting the full benefit of your sleep mode, if you will. Make sense? All right. Myth number 5. Certain foods can fire up your metabolism. So examples are catechins, they're found in green tea, capsaicin, found in hot peppers and ginger. There is some validity to these claims, but they're often really overhyped. So even in foods where there is an effect on metabolism, it's so small and the research is not conclusive. So some suggest that certain compounds found in green tea and hot peppers have a temporary effect on our metabolism. The less exciting truth is that the impacts are so small, and really a balanced diet can include these, and it remains, just eat healthy, include spices. Spices are good for your gut. Spices are good for making your food taste better and more exciting. So spices are not bad, but they're, again, it's like this idea that there's this magic bullet, right? There's something called what is it called? It's a cleanse that people do, and it's lemon juice and cayenne pepper, and they fast on it's a water fast, and that's supposed to rev up your metabolism. But like really, you lose weight because you're flushing it out of your system and you're starving yourself, quite honestly. So
Scott's guitar player just did a water fast. I don't know for how long, but I know it was at least a week. And the second practice he came to, Scott was like, he couldn't play at all. And he said he almost felt like he was drunk. Like it makes you, and I'm like, he has to drive all the way to Greenwood, Missouri. Like it's, I don't think it was healthy. I just thought that doesn't sound good.
There is some research that's been done on water fasting of its benefits, but it's for really ill people. Like if you have cancer and you don't want to, you've tried everything, like then you do a medically supervised water fast because, when you're fasting, your body can repair cells, and things like cancer can get extra attention when you're resting, but you're not getting up and driving places. You're not playing the guitar. You're not trying to think. You're like laying in a hospital, with electrolytes being administered and, very balanced and being checked all the time. So that's a very different thing. So,
Got it.
Water fasting has its benefits and it has its place for sure, but it's not like you and me in our daily lives just drinking water and thinking we're going to like find the holy grail to health.
Hey, Emily, one thing, as you said, spices. Oh, am I on mute?
Nope.
Oh, no, I'm not. One thing I just want, and this last one, it was funny. I was at the grocery store yesterday and I was thinking, I know I wanted to get some snacks, healthy snacks. I've been really leaning into probiotics. If I'm hungry, I'm always eating cottage cheese or my blueberries or whatever. But I was like, I'm going to buy shishito peppers because I have the idea that certain things like peppers are good to kind of, to your point, spices for your gut. Like they always say, put a lot of pepper in things, or garlic, ginger. All these things are really good for the gut. But I was like, okay, Cheshire peppers, I could just grill them up and snack on them, and probably I'm doing a good thing in my mind for my
Good.
metabolism. I'm eating peppers. But to your point, maybe
It's a good
it's
thing,
an okay,
but not for
it's a
your
good,
metabolism. That's
right.
it.
It's a good thing, but it's not, I'm not all of a sudden kickstarting my metabolism because I'm eating a bunch of peppers. Like that was kind of my thing. I was like, oh,
You
I'll fill my
cannot
stomach
kickstart your
and help my
metabolism.
metabolism.
You
Yeah.
cannot kickstart your metabolism any other way than eating a balanced diet and exercising and building
Yeah.
muscle. When you have more muscle mass, your metabolism increases. And when you have more fat, your metabolism slows down. When you're sedentary, your metabolism slows down, right? If you're burning a lot of calories, your metabolism is going to speed up, but you're also burning up and needing more calories. So there's no real there's no real benefit to doing any of these things necessarily, except for as it relates to metabolism.
Right, got it.
The other things potentially. So I just want to get that out there before we get too much into this. But we probably spent too long on that one slide because it has nothing to do with the book. That was my little added thing that I want to talk about. All right. So what is a muscle-centric approach? So Dr. Lyon is, again, a medical doctor. She completed she completed her research and clinical fellowships, one in nutritional science and one in the science of aging. She conducted 20 years of research and clinical practice. So she is no joke. She has additional training prior to all of this in psychiatry. So she brings it all together in this really holistic approach to optimal aging through this muscle-centric medicine with what she calls a protein-forward diet. But she also has a lot of things in there about motivation but it comes off to me, just if you want to read the book, she's great, but it comes off to me as like what the kind of motivation you would give to an elite athlete or a bodybuilder, right? Like all of it comes off as like, this is not for me. This is for like extreme people. And I really think that her research could benefit ordinary people. And that's who she wants her audience to be. But I really think like she needs to spin it differently. So I've done it for her because, I'm so great. But, some of that's a turnoff for people, right? When people are like yelling at you and telling you there's no excuses and you got to change the way you think, like nobody wants that. Maybe if you're an elite athlete. So that's why I'm spinning it in a different way. So she spent a lot of time working with geriatric patients in nursing homes and worked on obesity research at the same time. And she found traditionally obese patients were told lose more weight and exercise more by increasing your cardiovascular training and reducing your calories. Okay. I'm asking you a question, like, is that what you know is how you lose weight? Reduce calories and increase your cardiovascular training?
You need to build muscle.
Muscle, yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
I definitely have
Always
seen
known
the difference with muscle. Once I have more muscle, my body is burning more. I know that I would much prefer to do weight
Right.
stuff than cardio.
Right. And so when you do that, when you overtrain cardiovascularly and reduce your calories, you destroy your muscle and it leads to that yo-yo dieting, right? I did this all in my teens. I think people are a little bit more savvy and smart these days, but I just let me go for a 10-mile run because I ate a tub of ice cream last night, right? That was my MO. That's
Question.
crazy.
That is crazy. I don't run anyway. I only walk, but
I
I never run. Question though. So I have a really well, I would say she's a good friend now, but she's been my trainer off and on since I was just before I turned 30. And like every decade, I think I told you this, every decade I would kind of get in shape again until I was 40. And then after 40, everything went downhill. Menopause, premenopause, all the things. And I tried to go back when Jack was getting married and I did like 6 months hardcore with her.
For that. That's when you first started working at Outreach. We had a whole conversation. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was getting up super early. I was going like 5-6 days a week, but it's hit. And she believes in weight training. She always says that. In fact, she checked on me the other day and I said, I'm just walking and weight training right now a little bit here at home. And she said, weight training is always the way to go, but she incorporates it with HIIT. And I just, I don't know that at this point in my life, I don't know that I'm getting maybe I am getting benefits of weight training, but I felt like I was more injury prone. Maybe I wasn't as focused on the movement, and you know what I'm saying? Like, I just, I don't know.
I know exactly what you're saying. I mean, there are so many variations of HIIT, right? High intensity interval training. You can do HIIT with zero impact. So it's not high impact necessarily. It's high intensity. That just means you're training your heart to go up and recover in intervals over a fixed period of time. So that can be 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 60 minutes, 90 minutes. I've taken the most intense, God, probably the most intense workout I ever did was on vacation, where some guy was coming around to LBI on the beach in New Jersey and like saying, hey, for $10, you can come to my workout. And we all went, and holy shit, it was like over an hour long. It was intensity at every single interval. And then he had us like running laps around the block. I mean, and it was hot. This was like 10 o'clock in the morning. So sun was already out. It was humid. I felt like I was going to die. But you can do HIIT in a really safe way. It's just getting your heart rate to a certain point and then bringing it down to recovery. So I would say the workouts that I do, that we do in the morning are, technically they're HIIT because we're doing some recovery, we're doing weight training, and we're also doing some cardio intervals, but it's not, I think, it's HIIT like, but it's not so intense that you're like feeling like you're going to throw up, right? It doesn't need to be that way. So when you say that's kind of like saying I'm doing, I don't know a good analogy for it, but it's not all HIIT is created equal. Not all workouts are created equal. Every trainer has a different definition of what they're going to call that. But I would say if you have incorporating resistance training in your workouts, you want some cardiovascular training, right? Walking is great. Doing air squats is great. Doing squats with weights is even better, right? So all of that is going to contribute to a healthy body. But the resistance training is just as important as the cardiovascular. The cardiovascular doesn't have to be so intense, though. You don't have to be out of breath for 60 minutes. You can be out of breath for 60 seconds within a workout and then recover. That's more beneficial because it trains your heart to recover. The recovery is the important part of that.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. Like, if you know of the time you have to spend, that doing the weight training, building muscle mass is going to help your metabolism, is going to kick things in. It's going to, have a bigger impact after you're done with the weights. It's still burning and still doing things. But if they have to do cardio, which you have to do some of it, I've always heard it's better to do, like you said, walking is phenomenal. But if you have 30 minutes to do cardio, better to do a HIIT approach up and down, than to do 30 steady state, running nonstop or riding nonstop. It's better to do the HIIT approach. And to your point, there's low impact. I can't jump anymore, but like there's low impact HIIT. But that's a better way to give your body more benefit than just doing a 30-minute all-out sprint.
Yeah. And most HIIT, at least the HIIT that I've done, includes resistance training. So you're like multitasking, doing both. If you're doing a squat that's weighted and you're going up and down, your heart rate's going to increase, but you're also working your muscles in that. You're not, going for a run is great, and people feel good when they go for runs, but you're really putting a lot of pressure on your knees and your back, and you're only training your heart to stay up at a certain level. So anyway, I'm not saying running's bad. I'm saying if you only run, it's not as beneficial as the other stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you for bringing that up. All right. So have you ever heard of skinny fat?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So this is essentially what causes it, a focus on the weight loss part of it with the absence of building muscle. So you've got these people who look really thin and, they're tired, they're weak, they don't have any muscle tone. You feel them and they feel squishy. That's not great either. So the obesity epidemic was not caused by obesity at its core, but a lack of healthy skeletal muscle. So in her geriatric patients that had Alzheimer's, dementia, cognitive impairment, obesity, the underlying issue wasn't being fat. It was being what she refers to as under-muscled. So you can have a certain amount of fat on your body, and you're going to have more fat on your body as you age. And if you do, you're actually going to be more healthy, because you've seen like really skinny, frail people. But if they have the muscle underneath that fat, that's the important thing. So you've seen, I mean, I don't know, I used to do a lot of triathlon training and marathons and all of that kind of stuff and racing. And you go out and you see these people who are very large, and they're completing these triathlons. They're competing in these races. And you think, how in the hell are they doing this? And the reason is because they have muscle. They have healthy skeletal muscle, and they also have a little bit of fat. Now, is it harder for someone who has more weight on their body to run and jump and all that? Yes. And there's more stress on your joints and your bones, but they have healthy muscle. That's the difference. So when we're fat shaming people, we really need to look at, okay, are they just one big bubble of fat, or do they have muscle and also some fat? Like, that's more important. So Dr. Lyon espouses the benefits of muscle-centric medicine, and it's not just another fad or a simple shift in attention. It is a fundamentally different approach to health. So when we look at the CDC and the World Health Organization and the government, like, they're trying to get there, but they're so behind on the science because it's just the way it is. It's a government approach. It's so slow. But this is very forward thinking. And we are in, all of us are in like a place where we kind of are already thinking this way, right? You all said, like, I know that it's more healthy to have muscle, but I don't think everybody knows that. And I don't think everybody knows exactly how important that is. So fundamentally different approach to health that focuses on the muscles as the key organ of longevity and strives to optimize their function for overall well-being. So again, as we age, we want to have muscle to keep us from getting, keep our bone density up, to keep our bones from getting brittle, to be able to walk and function. You see these older people who can't move the way they used to, and that's not the way that it has to be. That's just the way that it is for them. So many of us, especially women, are intimidated by building muscle. So sometimes you think of weightlifting as these muscle heads with these thick necks and wife beaters and veins popping out. They're all greased up and tan, right? We also underestimate how much weight we can lift as women. So I see so many clients that come into my studio, they select the lightest dumbbells, and what's worse, they want to stay in the comfort zone of those light dumbbells for months. So there's kind of like this mental block on their ability. They don't even want to try to move up from 3 pounds to 5 pounds to 5 pounds to 8 pounds. So this line of thinking, I think, has really distracted us from a critical area of focus for all of us. Did you know that 40% of your body weight is skeletal muscle? And that's a huge amount of tissue. And it's kind of what we do with that body tissue is what's important. So what are we going to do with it, right? We're going to build healthy skeletal muscle. Most of us think about our muscles as one-dimensional, right? Can I see them? Can I not see them? Do I have a six-pack? Am I flabby? We want to focus. I think we're inclined to focus on being toned over being strong, usually. But we need to get beyond the aesthetics in order to reap the full benefit. And there are so many benefits to building and maintaining healthy skeletal muscle. Most of us have ignored this critical importance of the largest organ in our body. Skeletal muscle is key to effective weight loss. So we've already talked about that. It will boost your energy. It will help you burn fat. It can reverse diabetes. It can fight heart disease and cancer. That's crazy, but it's true. And I'll tell you why in a minute. Developing healthy skeletal muscle can reverse these symptoms, syndromes, diseases, and unlock all kinds of health benefits. So first of all, you're going to be stronger. You're going to be able to lift and do things that you want to keep doing, right? Lifting things over your head, bringing them down. I mean, in my everyday life, I'm doing things that I wasn't able to do before because I'm stronger physically. It's going to aid in blood sugar regulation by helping with something called myokine secretion. So these are molecules that are released when you exercise the skeletal muscle, and they mediate the communication between the muscles and other organs that help with bone and brain health, nutrient utilization, more specifically, the nutrient glucose, which is sugar in the bloodstream and into the cells. And it prevents insulin resistance. So why is insulin resistance bad? This is really important, and it's such a complex function. I tried to create a whole slide on the whole insulin resistance, that function. It's just very complex. So I'm trying to simplify it so that you can understand, but insulin resistance is bad. And why it's bad is eventually your pancreas can no longer produce enough insulin to overcome the cell's resistance. So what happens is your blood sugar levels go up, your glucose in your blood goes up, and ultimately that's like a pre-diabetic state, or type 2 diabetes can set in. So I could do a full hour on insulin resistance and pre-diabetes and all of that whole system. But what you need to know is insulin resistance is not good. And anything that can reduce your insulin resistance is a good thing. So,
and I was just going to add, when you
Yeah.
just said diabetes, because I was pre-diabetic, and then I went over to the diabetic thing. It was all diet related. It was diet and exercise related. But like now that my mom with Alzheimer's, they call that really diabetes 3, right? You've got 1, 2, and 3. But by the time you get to that place, a lot of it's because she had ate so much sugar, so many toxic things, and always had those really awful spikes in insulin and all that, and it builds up the proteins, in your brain, which then cause the dementia and the Alzheimer's. So it's diabetes 3. So it's so important, to your point, as we're aging, to get that down and to monitor that, to kind of reduce that risk level.
Yep.
But it's frustrating because I knew her diet. I could see the effect of what it was doing to her all those years in advance, and now it's too late. The proteins are there, and the synapses are broken, but a lot of it had to do with the strictly diet.
I know. I remember like 10 years ago when I first met you, you were talking about like, I wish I could get my mom off that sugar train. Like she's just,
yeah. And now it's now we're at this place, but it's a wake up call for me, because I'm like, I really want to focus on reducing the inflammation, reducing the insulin levels, because I am predisposed now to where she's going. And I just, it's terrifying to see what happens once it's too late.
Yeah, totally. And, like, look, get off the sugar train because you're going to lose weight. That's a great reason. But a bigger reason is the long-term effects of your brain and your overall health is huge. And sugar is a contributing factor to so many chronic diseases. So here are I have a laundry list of things that building skeletal muscle will do. It decreases inflammation, increases metabolism, boosts your immune system, decreases cognitive decline, to your point, Jen, corrects your body composition, and is going to help you be able to maintain an active full life as you age. So obesity in and of itself is not really the problem. It's not the heart of the problem. Many of the diseases that go along with obesity, like cardiovascular disease, hypertension, Alzheimer's, are common diseases, are not from being overweight, but diseases of unhealthy skeletal muscle first. So that begins decades before the obesity sets in. Like the unhealthy skeletal muscle, meaning weak muscle, it begins before it's present. So you can activate the healthy body that's inside the obese individual from inside to the outside. So so that your inside of your body overtakes the unhealthy body on the outside. So here's an example. When you see these before and after diet photos, usually what you're seeing when people have like crazy results, what you're seeing is the healthy skeletal muscle emerging. You're not really necessarily seeing a ton of fat decrease. I mean, a lot of times you are, but more so you're seeing the healthy skeletal muscle, because they have to build that muscle in order to have the toned body when the fat goes away. Otherwise, you're just going to have a skinny fat person. Any questions? All righty. So these are kind of scary pictures, but you can begin at an early age or a late age, anyone. So if you've got a parent or an aunt or a friend who says, oh, I'm too old to start weight training, that is simply not true. There are benefits that can happen at any age. You can begin a regimen to build healthy skeletal muscle anytime you get up off your butt and do it. Have you heard the stories of these 3 incredible women? So Renee Landers began to enter bodybuilding competitions at the age of 69. She took up training and weightlifting after she had spinal surgery, and she was really really, just afraid of not being healthy. And this is taking it to an extreme, obviously, but look at that body at 69, right? Like, I don't want that body. I don't want to put like weird tanning shit on me, but she looks amazing, and she probably feels pretty good too. Janice Lorraine, she was scared of losing her physical strength as she aged, and so she turned to bodybuilding. And while she soared to the top of the sport, she's also become an ambassador for women who want to stay strong and shape in later in life. So she is 77 years old. Ernestine Shepherd, probably the most famous bodybuilder, is the oldest female bodybuilder at 80 years old. And she did not start exercising until she was 56 years old. But since then, she's gone on to win 2 female bodybuilding titles. So I just wanted to give you some sort of extreme examples, but if you have someone that like, tell them, like, these women didn't have active lifestyles, and their age suggests that, they were born and grew up in a time when it just wasn't in style to be in shape. My mom talked about like always trying to get out of her PE period. They'd do any excuse to get out of having to go to gym because they didn't want to mess up their hair, and they didn't, it wasn't something that you wanted to be doing at all. Getting sweaty was like not seen as cool. That's very different now, thank goodness. And our daughters and sons are hopefully going to be, it's never a problem for boys, but it wasn't encouraged for girls. And, that leads to just a bigger problem in all of this.
I'm going to show that 80-year-old picture to my mom who's turning 85, because she always says I'm lifting too much weights, or be careful, don't lift too heavy. So yeah. I'm going to show her that picture.
And she's right. You have to be careful, right? You could hurt yourself, but you're doing it in a safe way. You can tell her to rest assured you're doing it in a healthy way. All right. How do I build healthy skeletal muscle? To be clear, there is no such thing as a healthy sedentary person, even if they're not overweight. Our bodies are just not designed to be sedentary. You've heard sitting is the new smoking. That is true. So what can you do? Increase your dietary protein, exercise with resistance training. 2 things, very simple to understand, maybe not so simple to do, and change habits. But we all need to really start looking at how much fat we need to lose, and instead reframe to how much muscle we need to build. If we focus on building muscle versus losing fat, then the focus becomes, like gaining the muscle. And that is where you're going to increase the weight. Try to strive for doing more. That's why I'm wearing that fucking vest. Like, I'm not trying to be, a dork with my vest on. I'm wearing that vest because it gives me a boost when I'm working out, where I don't have to be able to bicep curl 4 more pounds, but I have 4 more pounds of added weight on my body as I'm working out. That's just going to elevate what I'm doing. It's an easy way to get more weight on. So everybody has at one time probably focused on losing weight. I think that's just normal in the society that we live in. But the conventional strategies to do it are counterproductive for the most part. We've already talked about this, to building muscle. So especially if you're just looking at numbers on a scale. And quite honestly, years of the yo-yo dieting can destroy your skeletal muscle. As we age, it becomes more difficult to put it on and regain the health of that muscle. So, if you're getting ahead of it at an early young age, so tell your daughters, tell your younger people in your life, like, start now. It's not too early, and it's never too late, but it's really great if you can just have the muscle while you're young and maintain it through your 30s, 40s, and 50s. Grace, getting ahead of it, that's amazing for her. She's going to be one of those women that you see who looks amazing at 70. And, I always had this thought in my head, like, some people just have better genes or whatever, but most of the people that I meet that seem like it's effortless actually put a lot of work into it. It's just like, what do you want to focus your attention on? So if it seems easy, it's usually not. It takes work, it takes focus, but it's totally doable. And this is why you need a community. You got to surround yourself with people who are thinking the same way. Otherwise, people are going to drag you to the bars and to, sedentary activities that don't offer the things that you are trying to work towards.
So I was going to say, Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt you.
No.
When you talk about these paradigm shifts, two things I wrote down that I just think are important. And also I want to make sure Sophia understands, my daughter, because like you just said, a lot of people, she's like the scale, right? You get on the scale. Oh my gosh, I'm watching the scale's going up and I needed to go down. Well, muscle weighs more than fat. So if the idea is it's not about losing fat, it's about gaining muscle. Let's not focus on losing fat. Let's focus on getting stronger. Forget the scale is irrelevant to the whole process, because if you're doing it right, you're going to be gaining, the muscle, which is, but it was so much in her mindset of like, the scale has to come down, the scale has to come down, the scale has to come down, and trying to change that and be like, that's not the goal. That's not what you should be going for. Right. And, it's, I think in my younger years, it was always about the scale. Everybody was jumping on the scale. You were a huge scale person, like watching the scale all the time. And it's like, that's not the goal. That's
I
not it.
literally every single day of my life from the time I was probably about 13 or 14 would wake up, take off my pajamas, go pee, take off my pajamas, step on the scale. If you can see what I was just doing with my legs there, it was crazy. They're all twisted up. Step on the scale, and that kind of determined like how my day was going to go. It was really unhealthy. And when I was going through my eating disorder recovery, I threw my scale away, and I did it very dramatically. Della and I went outside. I had one of those kind of glass scales, and I put down like this tarp because I didn't want to get glass shrouds, but I took it on the concrete of our patio and I slammed it down, and we took a video of it and we cursed it and we flipped it off and said, "Fuck you, scale." And we threw it away. Now we have a scale in our bathroom now because my mind is not in the place of like, that is my worth. But that was a very powerful thing. And it was powerful to do with my daughter because she doesn't have those same issues. But I really like, that was such a measure. Now I am, if you asked me, I don't know, 15 years ago, what's your ideal weight? It would have been a certain number. And that number, I'm not going to say it because it doesn't matter, but that number was like, if I was more than that number, it was not a good day and I had to do something about it. And it was a fucking emergency. Totally unhealthy way of thinking. But I am a full 5 to 6 pounds heavier than that ideal weight and 2 sizes smaller in my clothing fitting. So my muscle weighs more, but takes up less space on my body. It looks better. I feel better. All of that. It's real. And, I've heard that before, but you don't think it's true because we're so programmed at that number on the scale. So if you have not hidden your scale from yourself or thrown it away or done something extreme and that's like bogging you down, I highly recommend getting rid of it. Mentally, it was so great for me. I use it as a tool. Gary really uses that as a tool and it's in there. And every once in a while I step on it, but I step on it to see that I am actually that 5 to 6 pounds heavier and my clothes are fitting better than they ever have before. I've pulled out suits, Natalie, for this job that I was wearing, years ago. Nothing I have is new. It's all super old, like gross Macy's suits, but they fit. So I wear them because I'm not spending money on that. Okay, let me refocus.
Hey, I don't know if you saw, but Natalie just put in the chat, she has to jump at 10:15. So I just wanted to.
Oh shit, it's already 10. We're almost done, but the important part's coming up. So I want you to think about muscle as a currency of health. This is what Dr. Lyon says, and I like this. It's the only currency that you can't bargain, buy, you can't buy it or sell it. You have to earn it. Thinking of it as something that you have to work for and maintain, like a self-made millionaire, creates a sense of pride and accomplishment. I've heard it say that being fit over 40 is the ultimate status symbol. And I'd like to think that's true. So stop yo-yo dieting. If you've ever heard of sarcopenia, that's atrophy. We see like these skinny, smaller, older people, frail individuals. We're going to overcome that by increasing our protein and getting our muscle into respond like you're in your 20s. Blood sugar, triglycerides, cholesterol, it's going to make it all better. You're not going to be insulin resistant. It improves your brain health. So I've said all of this. Here's the one thing I wanted to focus on. There's something called, I said, I'm going to talk about this later. There's something called cancer cachexia. And it's a highly metabolic state which ends up destroying your skeletal muscle. And it is responsible for over 30% of cancer-related deaths. So the cancer just starts eating your muscle. And you cannot survive without skeletal muscle. And so that's why people with cancer die. They just wither away. You see it happening. You see really skinny, sick people. That's what happens. And I just say that because when you think about if you have healthy skeletal muscle, it's going to prevent diseases. It will help fight against that. But in the end, if the cancer can overcome the muscle, it's going to eat it up. And that's ultimately how you die. It's kind of a morbid thought, but it's really powerful. All right, let's get to the good stuff. So how much is recommended? The RDA recommends daily allowance for protein it's much lower than what I'm going to tell you it is. So the average of 60 to 68 grams is what people are getting. Sounds like a lot of protein, right? Dr. Lyon recommends, and I've heard this through many other channels now. That was the first time I heard it, but now I'm hearing it in a lot of different places. So you're going to start hearing about this. Close to 1 gram per pound of ideal body weight. So let me tell you what that means. If you are 140 pounds and that's your ideal weight now, then you have 140 grams of protein as your target. If you are at 140 and you want to lose 10 pounds, and the number on a scale, again, we just talked about it, it's a tool, but if you know, relatively speaking, that you're going to feel better at about 130 pounds, this is just being able to target a protein. So don't worry about the number on the scale. Then your target protein intake is 130 grams. So it's a 1-to-1. The side effect of this is going to be that you won't be hungry. You're going to use nutritional science to leverage your willpower. You won't have to have willpower because you're putting so much of the right macronutrient combinations in your body. So start with 30 grams per meal and work towards your target. My oatmeal contains 30 grams of protein. If you eat it the way that it's prescribed, you can put more cottage cheese. You can have a hard-boiled egg on the side. That's your easy button. If you follow that meal plan, most days you're going to get to your goal. There was a study that concluded that you will lose body fat by changing dietary protein just for your breakfast. So here was the research. Postmenopausal women, it's called an isocaloric study. So both groups had the same amount of calories, but they had different macronutrient combinations. Some had protein and some had carbs. The ones who had protein weren't hungry and they didn't eat more the rest of the day, and that got them to their ideal weight. So if you just do it for breakfast, you're benefiting yourself. If you can do it for all 3 meals, that is even better. So you think, what about all the calories? Isn't protein more high calorie? Let me break it down for you. If you increase your daily intake of protein to 100 grams, that is equal to 400 calories. But you also have to factor in the thermic effect of foods because it impacts on the muscle because if it's impact on muscle, you lose 20% of the energy just to metabolize the protein. So if you've ever heard of that old diet culture love for celery, because supposedly it burns more calories just in chewing the celery itself, right? It's kind of the same idea. Your body takes more energy breaking down protein than it does carbs. And so you're actually burning more calories when you're burning protein. Difference in the celery is it lacks any kind of nutritional value. It's basically like chewing on water with sticks in it. All right. I'm not saying don't eat celery. Celery is great, but if you only eat celery, it's not going to cut it. Studies on overfeeding have shown that people who overeat on protein do not gain weight. In fact, their body compositions change and improve. So that means they are losing fat and gaining muscle. When you think about people who go on these keto diets at first, they're eating a lot more protein. So it does work at first, but they're putting too much fat into it. And typically they wind up eating a lot of keto junk food that doesn't really have any nutritional value. So over time, those diets tend to stop working and they're not healthy and balanced, right? You need the carbs, you need the fat, you need whole foods, you need all of that. So keto is a tool, but I don't think it's a really overall lifestyle change. So when is it ideal to eat my protein? Get it in the first meal of the day. If you get it right, again, that alone is going to be a benefit. So 30 to 50 grams of protein. You can have eggs, pea protein, whey protein, anything but collagen. And I'm going to spare you the whole diatribe about why collagen is different than other proteins. Just in the interest of time, we can talk about it more later, but collagen is great for other things, but it doesn't provide the whole amino acid profile that you need to be beneficial in this scenario. At lunch, you can go less than 30 grams of carbs. Less than 30 grams of carbs, so your insulin doesn't spike. You're going to add berries, high fiber oats, make smart choices, and you can't go wrong. Whole food sources are low on the glycemic index, anything that's non-starchy vegetables. And if they are starchy, you want to have a high fiber content like sweet potatoes and stuff like that. So this is why I'm limiting my oats to just 4 ounces. It's the only thing I measure is how much oatmeal I'm putting in that bowl. I really don't measure anything else unless I'm curious so that I can like eyeball it for later. Cause like, I want to see how much cottage cheese is X amount of protein. Like that's why I measure stuff sometimes. Or yogurt. Collagen again has a protein score of 0. So it's good for other things, but not skeletal muscle. Lunch is important to get some protein, but I wouldn't worry so much about your lunch. Ideally, eating the whole foods. And we're going to talk about supplementation. The other thing you want to do is get more protein at night. So right before you go into your fast, if you're giving your body a lot of protein, it will help you sleep better. You also want to combine that with, obviously your fitness, but any animal that goes out in nature that runs, swims, or walks is a high quality protein with the right essential amino acids. So people get nervous when I say that because, I've got some vegetarians not in this group, so I'm probably not going to dwell on that slide, but we're going to talk a little bit about what protein is. It's one of 3 macronutrients along with carbohydrates and fat. It's an essential macronutrient, meaning your body cannot make protein. You have to eat it. Therefore, it's difficult to gain fat on a high protein diet. Carbohydrates can be made. They can be made from protein. So your need for fats is smaller. And apart from essential fatty acids, there's not a huge need. Your need for carbohydrates, your body can make carbohydrates from protein. So protein is the only macronutrient that you actually need to consume. So make it as high quality as you possibly can. Don't worry about weight gain when you're adding it to your diet. It's an efficient fuel, meaning your body uses it up versus storing it. So we're talking about that thermal effect of the food. In diet culture, it can be very controversial, but this is based on brain and body science. A protein forward diet matters. And there's so much misinformation in social media. So all this to say, aging doesn't have to be uncomfortable. We don't have to accept that we're going to get weaker, have disease, or we just can't do the things that we used to do. If you follow this protein forward diet, you're going to feel better than you ever have. I feel better than I did in my 30s for sure. My 20s, I just drank too much, is why I felt so shitty. But, I feel better than I ever have. So protein is comprised of these amino acids that are the tiny building blocks. They're like grains of sand in a sandcastle, and the castle is the protein. The amino acids are the sand. So your body needs 20 different kinds of amino acids to function correctly, and they combine in different ways to make proteins in your body. There's hundreds of amino acids, but it can't make 9. These are called essential amino acids. So if you've been paying attention, amino acids are part of the super 6 nutrients, as is protein. And of the 9 essential amino acids, there are 4 that are natural appetite suppressants. Those are phenylalanine, tryptophan, leucine, and lysine. I've bolded them here. Okay, so you need these amino acids. I'm going fast because I want Natalie just to hang out here. All right. Options if you're a vegetarian. I don't think anyone here is a vegetarian. Is that right? I know Grace eats fish, so she's good to go. I will send you some details on this. If you need to supplement with a protein powder, that's fine. And I'll talk about that in a minute. So not all proteins are created equal. 9 essential amino acids are these complete proteins. These are fish, poultry, beef, eggs, dairy, soy, quinoa, and buckwheat. But some foods contain some, but not all of these. And these are incomplete proteins. These are like nuts, seeds, beans, and some grains. Della's always asked me, isn't peanut butter a protein? Like, yeah, it has a little bit of protein, but it's mostly a fat. So we need to start thinking about these in a different way. The unique amino acid composition of protein affects how the body is able to utilize the proteins for growth, recovery, and maintenance. And the absorption rate will affect how quickly the amino acids are broken down to be used. So if you're vegan, it might be difficult to get the recommended amount of protein for this protocol. Quinoa, so there's a lot that I want to say here, but basically if you eat a beef patty, it's the equivalent of 6 cups of quinoa. Nobody's going to eat 6 cups of quinoa and feel good about it. So you know, this is why it's difficult. This is why a lot of vegetarians don't have a high immune system, which I've noticed. And I'm not saying people need to change their lifestyle. I mean, the word that Dr. Lyon uses, quinoa, 6 cups of quinoa is carbicide. I think she made that up on the podcast. But you know, it's a lot of carbs combined with your protein. So I think there's like this shift to meat as a superior protein. And I think we need to sort of pay attention to it. And it doesn't mean that you just eat meat all day, every day. It means that you try to incorporate healthy, lean protein into your body, to have a little bit on protein powders. If you need an easy button and you just want to make a shake, there's some good protein powders out there. I recommend one that's called New Zest. It's a clean, lean, easy to digest protein. It has no sugar. It's minimally processed. It doesn't have any fake sugar, and it's 20 grams of protein. But we can go back to this if you're really interested in a protein powder. Again, protein powders are processed foods. At the end of the day, they don't exist in nature. You know, if you think if a shake is what's going to get you through the day, then let's talk about that at another time. So how much resistance training do I need to do to get the full benefit? It's a non-negotiable. You have to do resistance training, but it's any movement against weight. So you could do body weight exercises. So I would start with a minimum of 2 days a week of a full body multi-joint movement. Using machines is fine. But if you split up and do like just upper body or just lower body, then you're going to need to do 4 days a week. So most of my workouts are full body, as you guys know. So we're trying to multitask. We're trying to get the most out of the time we're spending in the gym. And that's through a full body combination of resistance training and a little bit of you know, cardiovascular. So in 6 to 8 weeks, you should be seeing results. But you're going to begin to improve immediately. Your health markers are going to improve immediately if you're pushing yourself to fatigue with those weights. 1 HIIT session per week, that can be air squats. So you got like a 45 second, 1 minute all out effort with 10 rounds and a minute in between. So just 10 to 20 minutes of doing air squats is considered enough to get you through. You want your taxed muscles, because you want to tax your muscles because it releases those myokines, which improves your blood sugar. You want to eat your protein and your body is going to be stronger, and then your body composition is going to improve. So if you're short on time, go hard for a shorter time. If you have a Peloton, there are these workouts called the Flash 15. They are intense, but they are 15 minutes of full body. You can select the full body one. Sometimes I think they're muscle focused, but I just select the full body one. If all I have is 15 minutes and I need to do a workout, that's what I would do. So if you have the app on your phone, they are not on the bike. They're on the floor, and it's Jess Sims, and she's awesome, and the music is good, and it's great. If you are just at your desk all day and you don't have time to fit it in, bye now, it's recording. You could do every hour on the hour, complete 20 air squats at your desk. So that means you're just squatting down, lifting up. Maybe you have a little weight there. Maybe you've got your vest on. This is why a vest is good. Wear it under your clothes. Stand at your desk, which I'm doing right now. You can increase your heart rate with a brisk walk to the bathroom or to get water. Just do that 10 times a day. Just walk really fast. So for me, I've got to go down. If I'm working from home, go downstairs, upstairs. I run downstairs, I run upstairs. It's little things that add up. Bring a resistance band into the office and do 10 reps of any exercise or wear a weighted vest. So I started making a series on my YouTube channel we call them quick hits of resistance band training that you can do like on your lunch break, 10 or 15 minutes of time. If you're really struggling to fit in the workouts, these are really good ways to do it. And I can slow down a little bit now. I felt bad. I was doing that. All right. What are the best types of resistance exercises? So you can do body weights, you can use bands, you can use dumbbells. Anything is better than nothing, but getting stronger and building the infrastructure to prepare for the inevitable aging process is what we're trying to do here. So, did I not forward the slide? Okay. What types of equipment should you invest in? So I'd say in the beginning, loop bands, handled bands, yoga mat, weight vest, dumbbells. You know, dumbbells are expensive, but they're worth it as you increase your strength. But if you start out with just the loop bands and a mat and maybe a weighted vest, that is a good start. And then, slowly build up, right, to needing the weights. I would not stop buying dumbbells necessarily until I get to like 10 pounds, because you can get the resistance training. I think it's really uncomfortable to use loop bands, especially with your upper body. It's just not the same as like moving weight as pulling it. So that's my preference. But if you don't have the space or you can't afford it, then loop bands and that type of thing are fine. Body weight is fine. Push-ups. Push-ups are like the perfect, push-ups and burpees, although we hate them, are the perfect exercises because they hit all the parts, they do all the things, and they're free.
And where did you get your vest?
Amazon. I'll send you the link. It was like $30.
Yeah.
I mean,
Do you use it just when you work out, or do you wear it around when you're walking around your house?
Both. I've been wearing it to work out. I don't always remember to put it on. Like I didn't put it on today and we went for a walk, but mostly I wanted it for when I was walking. But then I started like thinking, well, I could do it when I work out. Let me see how it goes. And I started to not feel it. The only time I feel it is when I go down for like on all fours, because it's kind of hanging and it kind of chokes up and it's kind of annoying. But otherwise, it's great. I really, really like it. All right. But what about menopause? So menopause, it's not a foregone conclusion that you're going to gain 30 pounds around your middle. It really isn't. We all have been and I'm hearing more about this every day. As my algorithm on my phone starts listening to all the shit that I'm following, I'm getting more and more content. And there are a lot of people that are really pissed off that medicine has really underserved women. And it gets me totally fired up. And I don't want to make this political, but let me tell you, fuck the patriarchy, because nobody's paying attention to the things. All of these longevity studies have been done on healthy white males. So, all of us in the minority are not getting the studies done to really focus in on what's healthy for us. So we have to be our own advocates here. Yes, there is a natural decline in hormones and an imbalance that can affect your body composition. When we move less, and that's going to happen because your estrogen decreases, your energy level decreases, you don't want to move as much, but also everything's working against you. So if you incorporate resistance training, you can change this and it will help reduce your symptoms of menopause. That's going to be a whole other 1 hour topic that I'm going to go into, probably on one of my like supplemental workshops after you as a member, because I just can't, we can't do that many workshops in a 4-week program, but I will be working on that. So in conclusion, you've got one life to live. You've got one body. Don't you want to make it the best that you possibly can? I mean, I hope that up until now, you've felt like there's been some value and we've been building up to this. We have one more workshop in this series and it's kind of a fun one. It's about detoxifying your life and just different kinds of products that you can use for your home, for your body. But I really think the first 4 are kind of the main ones. And anything you do after this is just extra good. If you can follow what we've gone this far, this is going to greatly improve your life. We do Q&A all throughout, but this slide is all you. Yeah.
Just a quick question. This is really good. And I've obviously been trying to get more protein. I do believe it's amazing as far as keeping you full and satisfied and all the goodness. But one thing, so obviously we know eggs, chicken, stuff like that, but I've been starting to lean into like lentils and chickpeas. I've been eating a lot, and normally I don't eat these things, but they have the fiber and the protein, but they also have carbs, right? So I've got like with chickpeas, they're high carb, but they've got a lot of fiber, they've got a lot of protein. Lentils, how do I think about that when you talk about the quality of protein and like the balance of, if I have 100 grams I'm trying to get in the day, how much should I be thinking about the beans versus like a meat source or egg?
Because you're asking the question, like if you're not vegan or vegetarian, I would say use them supplementally, use them alongside your meat. So, so I have a casserole recipe that's called Fiesta Casserole, and it's got meat and beans.
Right.
You could make it with just beans, but you're going to have to eat more of that. You're going to get a lot of fiber. You're going to get a lot of benefit from those. Foods are very healthy. But like the 6 cups of quinoa, that's why I made that visual for you. 6 cups of quinoa to one hamburger patty. That's
Well, that's
kind
why I was asking, because
weird.
you talked about those amino acids and how important they are and the balance of them. So I'm like, if I think about I'm making a meal and I've always got eggs or source, but sometimes I've just done like a lentil as the main meal. Am I getting the right balance of amino acids out of that? I'm
You
getting a
would have
protein
to
kick, I'm
eat,
getting a fiber
you
kick.
would have to eat so much. And for lentils, I don't know what the quantity is, but you
Okay, so I really have to
so
balance it out
much to
with the
get
meat.
enough of those amino acids
Okay,
to make a difference. So that's why I showed that visual. I don't know what it is for lentils and beans. I just know
right.
that
It's
I
a
know
similar
that
thing, and you've
fact.
got to get the meats in
So
there
think
or the
about it that way. I mean, I love the idea of having like lentils that are not stewed and stuff, like to sprinkle over a salad. They're cooked, but they're you know, not soupy. Sprinkle
right.
it in salad, quinoa in salad. Just having it as a side dish, right? Like a little bit of it in addition to your meats or your eggs or
Got
whatever.
it.
They're
Perfect.
not bad. They have a lot of nutritional benefits, but it's not that full amino acid profile that's going to give you all the benefits of the things we talked about, you know, the myokines and the building healthy muscle and
Mhm.
I think satiety is going to be there and the fiber is really good in beans. So don't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Right.
There's
It's just
no
not the single source. If I'm
constant.
having a meal, it shouldn't be like the main, it could be an additive, it could be, as you said, but that's helpful. I just wanted to understand the balance of it.
So when you think about it, and I have this thing that I'm working on that shows like kind of like a hierarchy of the different meats. I will tell you that the answer to your question is the best protein source that you could possibly have from being lean and all protein
Okay.
and the highest amount of protein. It's not. It's
What?
chicken.
Oh,
Bone
chicken.
skinless
Okay.
chicken breast, pound for pound, has the highest protein content with the least amount of calories, with the right amino acid profile. So it's
Do you
just
have a cheat sheet on that? Do you
I'm
have
building
a
it.
list of
I'm building
proteins?
it, but I'll give you like the raw data. I have it in the spreadsheet. I'll send it to you.
Okay, gotta be helpful just when I'm at the supermarket thinking about which
Yeah.
proteins, like what to
The
buy.
short answer is eat boneless, skinless chicken breast as much as you can.
Okay,
You got to change it up. Beef has other properties, but when you think about meat, meat is just protein. Like that's really all it is.
yeah,
Some fat, right? But if you have lean chicken breast, it's mostly all protein. Lentils, there's a lot of fiber, there's a lot of carbohydrates, there's a lot of things in those. So you have to eat more to get the protein
right,
part. It's
got
just
it.
part protein. Meat is all protein, pretty much. So
What
that,
about like the air chilled chicken tenders? Is that like the tenderloins?
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you can eat chicken thigh. I don't love chicken thighs, but chicken breast seems to have the highest protein content because it doesn't
Mhm.
have the fat mixed in. As
Right,
soon as you
right.
introduce fat or carbohydrates in addition to your protein, then if you've got, you know, let's just call it 8 ounces of lentils versus 8 ounces of boneless, skinless chicken breast, what's in that 8 ounces is all protein with the chicken breast. What's in the
Yeah.
lentils or the egg or the is other stuff, right? I
Yeah.
think egg is all protein actually.
Yeah.
And by the way, egg whites and whole egg have the exact same amount of protein ounce for ounce. It's just
Oh,
what else do you want in it, right? Do you want other nutrients or do you just want the protein?
yeah.
I'm curious about that, so I did that. So
Mm,
I'm working on this little document, but I'll send it to you.
okay, thanks.
Yeah,
Super
maybe
helpful.
I'll
Thank
finish it
you.
today and put it in our follow-up email.
Yeah, I just think it'd be super helpful. I mean, I'm all about this protein, but some guidance on what to buy when I'm at the store and what to lean into for the meals would be great.
Yeah, chicken, beef, eggs.
And I heard they've been debunking the myth about eggs. Since I love eggs, I could eat eggs. I make hard boiled eggs all the time. I put them on everything. But it was always a too high cholesterol. Manage the amount of eggs that you have. But now I've heard they're debunking that myth about eggs, that you don't have to say I can't have any more than like 4 a week or whatever. Like that's not true.
Mm-mm. Look,
Okay.
if you have a problem with cholesterol, foods with cholesterol, but meat has cholesterol too. So it's not
Right.
any different than any other animal protein source. So,
Okay.
you know, what you
They
need,
always got a bad rap.
if you have high cholesterol, what you need to do is exercise and eat a balanced diet.
Yeah. All right. I've got a boogie. This was great. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It was great seeing you guys. Let me just figure out how to get this, stop the share.
Wish
Thank
me
you.
luck on my next, I'll send you the link to I
Oh,
looked
yeah.
at the link. I just have pictures of the jumper things. But